I was about 10 when I encountered the conundrum of free will. Walking home from my primary school, I stopped. Raising my fist in front of me with my forefinger pointing straight up, I said to it, "Bend." Nothing happened. "Bend," I said again. Nothing happened. Then I said bend, and at the same time I willed my finger to bend. And my finger bent. I was puzzled. What was the difference between saying bend and willing my finger to bend? I didn't know, and I couldn't think how to find out. Then came consciousness. I was a little older. Looking in a mirror, I was aware of seeing myself in the reflection. That's me over there, I thought. I'm conscious of myself. Then I thought, how can I make myself more conscious? Again, I carried out an experiment. I'm conscious of being conscious, I said. Then, I'm conscious of being conscious of being conscious. Then, I'm conscious of being conscious of being conscious of being conscious. And I waited to see if uttering that rigmarole had made any difference. But I didn't look or feel any different. I resolved to look for other ways to make myself more conscious. Those two experiences primed me for the next. In my mid-teens, I embarked on a new hobby, training myself to become an orator. I would stand in front of my full-length mirror and declaim theatrically to myself aloud. The book I chose to read from was Charles Darwin's Origin of Species. I chose it for its grandiose style, but I got more than style from it. In the course of a few weeks reading aloud to myself in the mirror, I came to know myself as an evolved creature through and through. When I'm asked to define consciousness, I'll now point to this article. Accounting for consciousness has been called the hard problem, and I think that's partly because of how differently we experience it. From other people's accounts, I've concluded that much of that difference lies in early experiences. By describing those early experiences, we may come to understand each other better. Let me demonstrate. Here on YouTube, you'll find me defending dualism against physicalism and arguing for our theory of evolution to involve mind. Why? I think due to my early childhood experiences. I think I got inoculated against religion by my father being a clergyman. I gravitated instead towards science. I came to think of myself as mechanical boy. I liked to experiment on myself as if I was a machine. I took up 3D photography, playing with my eyes as if they were optical instruments on a workbench. The gift of a microscope introduced me to the amazing life in pond water. I came to know myself as a part of a huge web of life stretching all around me, all of it wonderfully equipped, united in us having evolved. The explanations I wanted for myself, I came to realize, wouldn't come from physics and chemistry alone. They'd also come from the study of evolution. Not so much evolution of the body, that didn't seem much of a mystery. The exciting part would be learning where consciousness and free will came from. That's remained an abiding interest of mine ever since. To learn more, I went to University College London, UCL, to study biochemistry. The first year they offered a BSc degree on the subject. I was taught a lot of chemistry, but there was little mention of mind and evolution. Lack of interest in chemistry cost me my degree, but all that chemistry did turn me into a physicalist, which I remained almost throughout my 20s. I came to relish the intellectual appeal of physicalism, sort of a snob appeal. Well, I wasn't quite a physicalist. I had to acknowledge the reality of mind. I was actually an epiphenomenalist. My body seemed to float several feet away from the real me, my conscious self, while I was aware of my body going about its pedestrian, predetermined business over there, as if independently of me. I could think whatever I wanted, free of physical constraints. But physics wasn't being violated. I knew consciousness wasn't physical. It couldn't make anything physical happen. It wasn't real. It was an epiphenomenon. I enjoyed monitoring my conscious thoughts while taking it for granted that they had no influence on my behavior. Other people's assumption that what they did came from decisions they made consciously was just, I thought, an illusion. I think many people who think of themselves as physicalists are actually epiphenomenalists, as I was. Essentially, though, they amount to much the same thing. Mind and matter can't interact. Our decisions are arrived at for us in our brains. As far as our behavior is concerned, we're robots determined by physics. Up through my 20s, I was a proud physicalist and a dedicated Darwinist. I remember thinking that if Darwinism were invalidated, I'd still have to believe in it because I'd made it the foundation for my sense of self. Until, that is, just short of 30, I had a revolution that turned my life upside down. I was eating lunch in a small park near City Hall in Manhattan when suddenly, without any warning, the bottom fell out of my world. I realized I was wrong. I'd been wrong all along. My consciousness could tell my body what to do. It was doing so all the time. This hit me like a lightning bolt. Something that most people take for granted and don't give a second thought to, that we can consciously tell our bodies what to do, suddenly for me became absolutely extraordinary. Mind can interact with matter. Not only can the physical world act on our consciousness, we experience seeing it and hearing it. We can feel pain when someone hits us. But our consciousness, by acting back on the brain, can tell our bodies how to act in the physical world to carry out our wishes. It's happening all the time, all around us. It's in our architecture. It's in the litter lying by the side of the road. It's in almost every gesture and every sound we make. Here's the conscious experience that shattered my belief in physicalism. I'd assumed all along that because my brain was purely physical, it couldn't have access to anything non-physical like my non-physical consciousness. It couldn't know what I was thinking. But suddenly, I realized there wasn't any aspect of my supposedly non-physical conscious experience that I couldn't refer to in talking or writing. And talking and writing are decidedly physical activities managed by my brain. This showed me that my brain did have access to my conscious experience, all of it. And if I could express my conscious thoughts in talking and writing, then I could express them physically any way I wanted. I could have some degree of free will, free to some extent at least from physical determinism. And gradually, I came to doubt Darwinism. If I had evolved to be conscious, creative, and have free will, there had to be some corresponding freedom in the process of evolution. Whatever the mechanism of our evolution was, it didn't have to be just physics and chemistry. But now, if I had to abandon Darwinism, what alternative foundation could I find for my sense of self? I came by that alternative gradually. In my 50s, I wrote a utopian novel, Farther in a Far Distant Past, I Find You, to explore the implication of past advances in evolutionary theory. I projected each in turn onto the next in a series of future civilizations. When I began, I'd not entirely given up Darwinism, but weighing the implications of evolutionary theories made me finally reject it for its entire unconcern with how mind evolved. When I left college, I abandoned science for the field of publishing, both as a writer and as a graphic designer, and later as a webmaster. In the 3 decades since I wrote that first book, I've written 6 more. All attempts to answer these questions. What must it mean for us that we evolved? And what must the universe be like if it can accommodate creatures like us in it with minds? In 2010, I launched the website Evolution for the Humanities. Now, here at YouTube, I advocate for dualism over physicalism and argue for a role for mind in evolution. And I look for new ways to make sense of having a conscious self. Where may those new ways come from? Again, from particular experiences of consciousness pointing me to a new aspect of reality, meanings. In my 50s, I had several experiences of ecstasy, during which things entirely inconsequential became drenched in meaning. This was unconnected with any drugs, any extra experience, just during everyday life. This told me our brains contain a store of raw meaning, always looking to escape and settle on suitable objects within us and around us to make them meaningful. When I'm in a good mood, everything seems rich with meaning. When I feel low, the world seems meaningless and drab. I've come to experience meanings as something I project onto things coming from inside me, from a store of meanings continually refreshed in my brain that's constantly looking for ways to escape and make the world meaningful. They're like what in AI are called tokens. They're how we make sense of the world. We don't care what chemical elements things are made of. We recognize them as chairs, tables, cups, windows, pavements, lampposts, and so on. Those are meanings. So are ideas like quality and quantity. Those are terms we think with. Why is accounting for conscious experience such a hard problem? Partly, as I've tried to illustrate, because we have such different experiences to draw from. But also, as my attempts to write about it have shown me, we lack the concepts we needed to talk about it. Descartes took us beyond where ancient Greeks and Romans left off, and cut us off from the concepts we inherited from Christianity. We've no alternative but to come up with a new set of concepts specifically for creating a new sense of self. That's what I'm working on. Here's how I'm hoping to turn my new concern for meaning into a set of terms we can use to talk meaningfully about minds. Evolution and science may explore reality entirely differently. Science can study only aspects of reality that are conserved, such as physical objects and mass and energy. Evolution doesn't have that limitation. It's simply concerned with what it finds useful. It may quite possibly have discovered mind and figured out how to employ it. There is no logical barrier to supposing evolution can involve mind. Minds run on meaning. We know what meanings are like from our own conscious experiences. We think in terms of meanings, and out of them we come up with decisions that can tell our bodies how to reshape the physical world. Minds seem to need brains, a physical substrate. Where in evolution is the physical substrate for minds? Evolution will work through mind-brain combinations. What we learn about our own selves we can apply to evolution, and vice versa. That is, what we know about our own conscious experiences we can apply to evolution. What we discover about evolution we can apply to talk about our own conscious experiences. A new window should have appeared on your screen, or will appear. That would lead you to my account of a new theory of evolution. I recorded it as a humorous monologue, but you can take it seriously if you like. Have you had experiences that affected how you thought about mind? Do you know of anyone else trying to connect mind and evolution? Please let me know in the comments below.